So everybody doing good today?
Yes.
Did you have a nice walk so far? Meet some new people?
Yep.
Or some old people? Or some dead people? So, you can come closer, I probably won't bite.
Come here.
And I can get you from there.
Mommy. Mommy. Come here.
Don't be afraid. It's all good. I'm Charlie White. I was born in 1846 back in Ohio. And by the time I was a couple of years old, we moved from the middle of Ohio towards the northwest corner of Ohio. And because the family decided they wanted to move, I guess. I was young and I didn't have a whole lot to say in it. So, but by the time I was about 10, I was out running through the woods, doing things that boys do back then, probably still should today. Getting outside and learning how to do stuff outside by themselves, how to hunt and trap and fish and scout, and follow trails and things like that. By the time I was 12, I'd killed my first deer, trying to keep the family fed. That's just how you did things. There weren't King Soopers back then. By the time I was about 15, I started spending summers, and then more and more time. Started out short trips, and then got longer and longer in Michigan and Wisconsin, which are all right up there by the northwest corner of Ohio, where my family was living. And I got to meet up with a lot of the Indian folks that were up there, and so I learned a lot of their ways, a lot of their traditions, and I even adapted their way that they dress a little bit, because I found out that if you're doing a lot of spending time in the woods, doing a lot of hard work, that dungarees, that'd be like these deals here, like this guy's got on, dungarees, they wear out pretty fast. And deer skin is a lot sturdier. Well, heck, it lasted the deer its whole life. It ought to last me a little bit longer than a piece of cotton fabric, right? But dungarees were available. They just didn't suit me. So that's how I started getting called BuckSkin Charlie all the time, and just stuck. It's all good. So about 19 or so, I started moving. Started getting a little too civilized where I was living. So, and it was not. The game animals, you know, the deer and the elk and stuff like that, and the bears and the buffaloes, they kept getting pushed farther and farther west. And so, like a lot of folks, I moved farther and farther west. By about 19, I ended up in Nebraska. And around Lincoln, Nebraska, I tried my hand at homesteading. That's sitting still in one place all the time, taking care of growing crops and whatever. I mean, that's the food that food eats. It wasn't really for me. But I walked myself from Lincoln, Nebraska to a town called Aurora, Nebraska. It's a little bit farther west, in Hamilton County. And I bought up some lots at the west end of town, and I set up a blacksmith shop. They said they needed a blacksmith. Nobody else knew how to do it. I'd already learned how to gunsmith a little earlier in my life. So the guy bought some blacksmith tools, brought them out, and I pretty much taught myself how to be a blacksmith. I also ran a livery stable, which is help also keep the horses, where you keep horses, and keep up with their leather stuff, their bridles and all that kind of stuff. So like transportation. You know, back in those days, that was your transportation choices, was walking, riding a horse, riding a mule, riding in a cart or a carriage, or a buggy sort of thing. That was how people got around. And so I set that shop up there. I met my first wife there in town, and she gave me a son and 2 daughters, 3 children. But after she passed away, I grieved for a while, but I'd met a young lady's brother, and then here's we do his sister. You know how that all works out. Swipe right. No, I'm just. So I married her, and she's down here with me. Amy Louise is down here with me, and we got married around 1900 or so. And a little while later, it started getting too crazy again. There just wasn't as much stuff to hunt, and I'd prefer to be out on the trail, you know, hunting and scouting and whatnot. So we moved a little farther west, and we stopped at a place about 35 miles east of here. And back then, town limits was at Union Boulevard, in case you didn't know that. Everything else was out in the sticks. But we were 35 miles east of that. We moved in, set up a shop. People start coming around, getting stuff fixed and whatnot. Approximately where Highway 24 and Highway 94 come together by Peterson Air Force Base. By about 1910 or so, we moved into the big city. We were getting older. By that time too, automobiles were starting to be popular. So we moved in. We moved south of the Colorado Springs a good way, in between Colorado Springs and another little town called Ivywild, and set up a service station. That's where people came with their cars and whatever, their vehicles, to get them fixed, or parts made, or you know, what have you, so that they could keep going. So I was in transportation once again. So about 1911, 1912, I gotten pretty religious after I almost died being sick in 1907, and got really into church. But so they were needing a new church here in town. So around that time, I helped get up the money and donations and stuff like that, and then physically did the work to build the Bethel Presbyterian Church here in Colorado Springs, up in town. I don't know where it is today. I think it might have got assimilated by the First Presbyterian Church, but I'm not 100% sure. But I ran that service station down there about where Nevada and Las Vegas are nowadays, where there's a come and go station. And until I passed away in 1923. So that's, I could tell you guys stories upon stories upon stories over my life, but I've told I'm not supposed to keep you guys very long because you're close to the end of the tour and you've probably been walking for a long time and standing up. So I'm happy to entertain any questions, take you down and show you where I hang out. I want to thank you very much for coming out to visit. We get lonely out here. We're always up for visitors. Bring a picnic lunch, come out and hang out with us. If you've got questions, you can ask me now, or you can come back and I'll be down there later on, and you can just ask me down there. You'll probably get a better answer out of this guy here. Down the road here.
Why don't we take
No, it's all good. They'll follow.